This is interesting for us because how Western notation can transmit the Eastern music,
yes.
With all its modal aspect.
Yes, because we have different signs, sharp and flat, but that sign's style is different. Not classical sharp and classical flat. For example, if you write origin flat opposite, it's mean to come or one come. It's changing.
Probably we will need to make it explicit what a comma is. So a comma is a very small division of the whole tone into how many parts?
They learned us, how can I explain that, I don't know what. Koma'yı hamar panzazeyn, martumu aganci imanarik, ammenin bızdik baravutyon.
They taught them that it was the smallest interval that even an ear could hear, but it's not true.
Yes.
I think what they call schisma is much smaller, like 1/3 of it. That's the smallest one.
But on the kanun, for example, the whole tone is divided, I think, into 6 parts. Am I right?
Well, it depends on the canon. Normally it's 9 parts, but you don't necessarily have 9 little things.
And all these small divisions can be named commas.
Yeah, a comma is 1/9 of the big tone.
So how is this system transferred in the Western notation? In the Western notation we only have half step and whole tone. So how can you make these smaller flavors notated?
Because Eastern instrument is different and they have itself different distances. For example, Western flat, if you write opposite, it's mean one com.
If you flip it.
Exactly. But if we write sharp, we have different kinds. For example, normally sharps, you are writing 2 vertical lines. If you write 2 vertical lines and 3 horizontal lines, it's mean 5 com. 1 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines, it's mean 1 com.
I think that everybody who listens to this start to sweat a little bit because it gets complicated. But all this system, notation, is trying to adapt the notation to music that exists, that is performed by people for a long time. And of course, when it's performed, when it's a living tradition, when you are born into this, it's still precise, of course, but it's much more natural. It's not so complicated as we hear it now. Coming from the West, when we listen, we start to sweat. So how would you define modal music in general for us? How would you describe it as different from Western music?
It's a little bit difficult question. Not difficult, it's difficult for the explaining. Okay, I know my areas, my places, music is makam music. I know that one. And I grew up with that music, that system, that voices, that sounds. If I listen somewhere similar sounds, similar melody, I understand that one is makam music. Now, it's too difficult. Too much difficult. Of course, I know, but how can I explain that? I don't know. Because until now, never. I don't think about that. How to explain that music to somebody.
So maybe let's start with the word makam.
Yeah, sure.
There is a word makam, and it's a musical term, of course, in the Eastern music. Does it have another meaning, apart from just indication of a musical concept, or like, what does makam mean?
Makamın
Paris.
İravura
İçki discordancy.
did not think about that.
Although he knows what the word means.
But in music, what is makam?
Makam is mode, generally.
And how many modes, how many makams there are?
There's too much. For example, I know for now 38 makams. But I have in my library, in my house, more than 159 different makams. But of course, they are not usable for now because there's big parts they were using in the past. For example, 100 years ago, they were using, but now, no. Because sound, contemporary sound, day by day, changing the world and our social life and everything is changing. And sounds also are changing. And that modes maybe Irens Pane Lecucazer.
They had their title.
I want to ask, because you said that you know 38
Yeah.
makams.
Yes.
And if you would have to tell someone who doesn't know anything, if you have, this is number 1, this is number
Yes,
2,
exactly.
this is number 3, what are the difference? Is it a different scale, or if it's a different taste, or if it's the different notes there, or if it's the different way of singing? What are the 38 or 159
Differences. Firstly, I have to think about that Turkish. How can I explain or Armenian, and then later English. Dar periodo in Grzegorza, ce?
Știți că pasă să rezumăm traducere sau?
Arten Betsat tam 4'ü tam 5'i nereden? I think there are six
main tetrachords and pentachords.
And after that, mana sortnera ammenna asons panoglavor. Ինչպես կսվի հարաբերություն չէ։ As Betsatեն tetrachordներ այոգան բայց asons մի ժամանակ makam անունն է։
These tetrachords and pentachords are also used as makam names, and the other makams, he said, are derived from these principal fundamental ones.
But this thing is only just for these 6 tetrachord, and we have at the same time special, not tetrachords. For example, Kimgen, Sabah. This is special. How do tetrachord?
This is defined as a special tetrachord.
6 main tetrachords, and we have another special.
Because it's not a perfect tetrachord.
So every makam have different set of sounds, different tetrachords.
Yes, combinations, different tetrachords with together combination, and you see a new octave, new scale. New scale.
Different tetrachords and pentachords arranged differently to obtain the scales.
So this is the very technical terms, and the less technical terms like the effect. How would you describe the effect?
Each tetrachord or pentachord, it has itself different characters.
When you sing, for example, in our performance, now it's easy because it's a routine, it's the same thing. But
yes.
I remember that before, when we were still rehearsing and putting the play together, it wasn't so easy for you. You always made it perfectly right, but it wasn't so easy for you to jump from one sound world to, for example, Kimgen, this mode that you just sang. So what do you have to do it right? When you sing a song in one makam and then you start a song in another makam without any instrument.
Փախտավորեմ որ թադրահավի մեջ եկեղեցու մեջ միշտ երկած բաները սովորում համար միայն թե նախքին այդեն այսինքն տղամի չեք ներկայացուցած այդ պատրաստության համեմատ թադրոնի մեջ է երկելու համար դժվարություն կա շեգոր որովհետև մինչև այսօր միակ եկեղեցու մեջ եւ համերկասրանքների մեջ.
So the first part is that he makes precise that his main difficulty was to apply the repertoire that he sang always in the church in the theater work.
Դերմը վերջի այլևս վարժություն եղավ անշուշտ անիկա փնտրելով ես կդա բայց հիմա առանց խորելու գլդագոր անիկա.
He got used to it, now he doesn't think about it.
Արդեն գշվարանամ գոր երբեմն չեմ գրներ որ հաջողի.
Yeah, sometimes I can't do it immediately.
Pamma gnem gor pais. Հիմա չէ որ հիմա որ ինձ անցուցին հիմա անտրետասը մինչև այսօր չի խորած որ ինչ գնեմ գոր անելը.
It's true that I'm doing something, but as long as nobody asked me what was it, I never thought of it.
But are you thinking about after now?
No, please don't. Because you know when you start to think about some things.
Because I have to explain it to you. I'm so sorry. Really, it's Կարմը պաներգան որ միայն գսկացվի չես կրնալ անիկա սոմուտ ըլլալով ծծնել.
There are things that you just feel and you're not able to make them tangible.
The last example, մեր ուսուցիչը գսել որ մակամի երաժշտությունը ագանչի երաժշտություն է, կուլակ մուսիկիս է.
His teacher used to say that makam music is music for the ear.
Առանց իմանալու, այսինքն միայն թե մեթոդը սորվելով, նոտայով check կրնար.
You can't do this just by using a notation without hearing it.
You have to hear firstly and then theory.
I think this is a very good answer actually. It's an answer that says it all, but I know that it can say more to those who have some experience, even by realizing that they don't know. Yes, but I think that's the best answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Murat.
Thank you.